Hello and welcome back to the Unplayables podcast. It has been a while, hasn't it, guys?
Yep, it has indeed.
It has. We aren't joined by Art today, but we are joined by Ryan, Connor and Matthew. So I did just speak to you, but if you want to say hello again.
All right.
Hello.
Hello.
I like how we still do it one at a time. We still take it in turns. British queue, and I like it. Right, so today it's something a little bit different. We have a Park Life Sport special, but it's also a double special because we are recording for Park Life Sport, but we also have a Checkatrade Trophy special. So, as I coined earlier, this is a special.
Nice.
So, guys, I don't actually know where you want to start, but Checkatrade Trophy, what are our thoughts on it, first of all, I think?
I mean, I've never really looked at it as a mainstream competition, like, throughout. I think it's like it's just been that sort of random cup game for, like, lower league clubs to try and win. I mean, there's never much hype about it, whether they're playing it or not, you know, on any sort of coverage-wise.
Yeah.
I understand the value of it in terms of it that it gives those sort of clubs a chance to go to Wembley because obviously, like the FA Cup, especially when you get further in, there's a lot more quality teams. So I get its value, but like I just don't really sort of pay a lot of attention to it.
Do the other Ryan and Connor, do you think there is any value to it?
I think it's increased. I think it's increased in value potentially, or maybe to some people in the last couple of years with the introduction of the under-21 sides, because it gives those bigger clubs a chance to promote their youth players against, let's say, against men rather than fellow youth players, and that also with the introduction of bigger clubs could, I think will over time increase its interest generally with more fans from the bigger clubs potentially wanting to be involved.
Ryan, do you think it has any value?
Not since the introduction of academy sides, no.
Oh.
Because attendances have decreased, well, in general, in the competition they have, because how many, like, when Cheltenham played Arsenal under 21s a few weeks ago, how many players involved are actually going to be a regular for Arsenal in the future? Not many.
One, maybe two. There are a couple of really good
and
players
that was
in that game.
That was only because
but regular players, like consistent.
Not at Arsenal.
Not at Arsenal.
Yeah, but that was a special situation because that week there was also a Carabao Cup game, so the likes of Emil Smith-Rowe weren't playing because they were included in that first team squad and being given their chance, having done well with the academy side.
I think in terms of like the fans' perspective, as Ryan brought up with the attendance going low, I think they're more just frustrated how like the bigger Premier League clubs are being favoured again by being allowed to enter a competition that was specifically designed for lower league teams. Granted, they're only the under-21s, but they are going to be receiving higher training qualities and facilities, better training techniques, from better staff, supposedly.
Yeah.
I mean, like, so for a fan, it's like, well, they've got all this money and everything to train these players, so especially if they lost to the side. Cheltenham thrashed Arsenal's under-21 side, but I still think for a fan, it's like, why should they have this access when this was originally just for us to have?
I do actually agree. When I was saying increased value, I mean sort of generally for the clubs, the lower league clubs that were originally in like the Johnson's Paint Trophy. It has. I'd agree with you. I'd say it has decreased value for them and the fans because they're not going to play their best team. Like Cheltenham didn't even play their best team against Arsenal, and they still won
comfortably.
There was a very early red card in that game. I'll remind you.
As a Cheltenham fan, it's brilliant for me. But
as an Arsenal fan, it wasn't so good. But yeah,
like for the fans of the big clubs, I know, like obviously me and Matthew are Chelsea fans. Connor's an Arsenal fan. It might allow to see the kids play against men, but at the end of the day, it's like for them, it's like not. If they go out of the competition, it's like, it's only an additional bonus. They've still got their leagues to focus on, the under-21, under-23s leagues and the under-23s cups, etc. But it's just...
it's also... I agree with that, but I think... Don't you think if mentally for them, they're thinking, right, this is the chance for a proper trophy at men's level football, how much of a leap would that be for them if they could do that? And mentally, if they can get, like, yeah, they've got their own competitions and league competitions and stuff, and that would be good for them to win. It's just an extra competition for them to go for, and I don't think they take it any less seriously than.
But then, like you said, with Emile Smith-Rowe, he was involved in a game. Like, why? Like, they're not. Even the under-21 sides aren't playing the best players.
That I reiterate, that was a one-off because of what I think. Emile Smith-Rowe
Did Smith-Rowe play yesterday?
So you're suggesting that had he not had the Europa League fixture coming up that Thursday, he would have started against Cheltenham?
No, he played in the
potentially
in the Carabao Cup
on the Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah. I think Emile Smith-Rowe is like an exception. He's really advanced this season compared to a lot of it. It's like I don't know how much maybe Hudson-Odoi's played.
He played one game against Swindon in the first game. That's it.
Yeah, see, I mean, it's a similar sort of situation there.
It's like Chelsea played Wimbledon on Tuesday night, and we have a game today Wednesday against Wolves. The likelihood is that Hudson-Odoi won't be involved in that. And if he's not involved in the Premier League game, why isn't he involved in the under-21s game against Wimbledon?
But do you think that's a problem do you think that's just central to the Checkatrade, or do you think that's just generally with academy games that he's just sort of in between?
I think that's sort of an in-between issue, because the problem is he started the last Europa League game last time out. So there's obviously there's clearly something with Sarri thinking, where does he want him?
Yeah.
Whether he wants him playing in a younger squad at the moment or in his first team. Or
out on loan.
But if he's playing, like the argument they're playing against men and he can develop further, why not play him against Wimbledon? The same with Ethan Ampadu.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to gain any more experience by sitting
on a bench.
Not even on the bench, sitting in the reserves.
Yeah.
Right, so we've had your thoughts on it quickly. Shall we play some of our fans' thoughts on it?
Yeah.
Our fans. They're our fans now.
Yeah, your
fans.
Matthew and Ryan did well to go out and collect this yesterday evening. So first of all,
Matthew,
hopefully it's going to play all the way through. So let's give this a go. That's the wrong mouse.
I'm not for it at all. I think it's disgraceful, and I think they should have their own competition. We've seen last year Everton under-21s, rubbish. Arsenal under-21, rubbish. Most of the under-20 teams we've seen so far have been rubbish, absolute rubbish. And we do wonder how they ever get into the first team, some of these players. It beggars belief, it really does.
To be honest, it's not something I would personally agree with. I understand why they want to let some of the younger ones from the Premiership clubs play to give them match experience. But this competition over the years has been primarily for League One and League Two. Once they did have some from what we now call the conference. But really, I'm not happy about it, really, because it's taking the joy out of first and second, what was the third and fourth division thing. So, I understand why they're trying to give match practice, because I know full well tonight Stoke are playing at Port Vale and Stoke are playing their under-21. So, from the point of view of attendance at such games as that, yes, there is a big attendance because, of course, it's a local derby. So, there are advantages and disadvantages, but if I had to say a disadvantage, that's the way I would go.
Okay, so what do we think of that? Obviously, both of them against it. I think we're fairly against it, but we're undecided. I mean, you guys are all fans who represent the views of the under-23s clubs, really, but obviously you can see it from both perspectives. Obviously, those two Cheltenham Town fans there.
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion, as a Cheltenham Town fan, whether that opinion is valid or not, I don't think it's the best thing for a club like Cheltenham to be involved in. Like we said, like that gentleman said in the second one, it used to be the Division 3 and Division 4 that were in that trophy, and that I think was brilliant, because that gave it gave an extra challenge. I mean, it's extra games, but it's extra competitive games. And then similarly, as the guy said in the first one, the under-23s teams that we're seeing aren't actually very good. I mean, Cheltenham have obviously struggled in League 2 this season, and they're comfortably beating these under-23 sides. And yeah, I don't know whether obviously it's meant to be a test for the under-23s, but there's got to be other ways to test them. In my opinion, you can't just. They're sort of using the League 1 and 2 clubs just to help out these under-23s, when actually Premier League clubs could just use the loan system more effectively and send some of these players that they want to get better in the men's game, send them to men's teams instead of playing them in an under-23 Premier League, which is dull, boring, and not competitive in any way.
So, George, are you suggesting that perhaps they're sort of taking advantage of League 1 and 2 clubs by using under-23s in this competition?
I think so. I mean, kind of. Because obviously it's a good chance for teams like Cheltenham and stuff to see how far off or, how much better they are than under-23s. But in the grand scheme of things, that has nothing to do with it. And this is coming from the perspective of someone who we got through last night. We beat Newport. We're still in the hat. We're still going. We're winning games of football from it. But I think even then, I don't think it's that beneficial to the club really. It's some money, which is obviously great, could go a long way. But I think this has now been designed with these under-23 clubs in mind, which I don't think is fair.
Yeah, they're definitely taking it from their perspective rather than the existing clubs, which is a bit unfair. I think they did they've probably tried to justify it in that they think that the lower league clubs will want to test themselves against potentially higher quality but younger players. But that's not, as we say, that it seems to be an imbalance of positives and negatives for the League 1 and League 2 teams compared to the academies.
Right, the whole reason they wanted to add the Premier League academy sides to the competition was to test the young players competitively. But do you know who captained Arsenal against Portsmouth last night?
I do. But
Laurent Koscielny.
Yeah.
Why?
I didn't realise Laurent Koscielny was
under-23.
Yeah, I mean,
he needs to be tested. Don't you understand? He's not experienced.
Arsenal captain Laurent Koscielny needs to be tested in a competition.
International French defender.
Right, I can understand
tested competitively against
Portsmouth.
From an Arsenal perspective, I can understand the mini uproar that this has caused, especially on social media. But how else is Laurent Koscielny going to come back from injury?
So you're suggesting that if Eden Hazard gets injured, he should then go and start playing at Swindon under-23s?
No, we're talking a very long-term injury he's had, and he can't just be thrown straight back into the first team. He needs to play under-21 games.
Yeah, I get that, but I cover a lot of Bristol City under-23s games, and they feature some first-team players. Like Frank Fielding played a couple of weeks last week against Derby. But I kind of get it. But in a competition, they added the Premier League academies for the younger players to play. Why not just play them in a behind closed door friendly?
Yeah. Okay, so from the perspective that the young players want to be tested against men, surely Koscielny is thinking the same. He thinks this would be a great opportunity for me to get my fitness and my match sharpness up against a men's team.
But didn't he still limp off after the game?
Yeah, but that's irrelevant. But
do
clubs not have other reserve team games?
Well, yeah, there's the under-23s have their own league, the under-18s have their own league, the under-23s have their own cup competitions, as well as the Checkatrade Trophy.
But there's no law against it.
The clubs are allowed to use a certain amount of over 21 players.
I mean, if you're Arsenal and if you're Koscielny, if you're not picked for that because it's a competition to improve young players against men, he's thinking why?
But from the opposition's perspective, they'll be looking at that team sheet and then seeing Laurent Koscielny in. They're just going to go, well, why is that fair now? Because now we're going to be playing up against a Premier League experienced defender. We're in League, 2 or whatever.
I can understand that perspective.
And for them, that's the chances of now trying to win is already sort of.
I mean, they still won.
Yeah,
they still won. But it's still puts that sort of mental aspect of going, well, God, now we got to play against him now. And,
is this sorry to interrupt everyone, all of you. I think all of you would like to see that. Is this competition the one where the League 2 or League 1 club have to show that they're playing a relatively strengthened side?
Yeah, or else they'll get fined.
Yeah, so you get fined if you're not showing that you're playing a strong side or a side which has, I think it's a certain number of first team players in the last fixture, isn't it, or something like that?
So is what you're suggesting potentially like the opposite with the academy clubs, that they have to have basically just change the rules so you can't have 3 players over a 21 like it is.
I don't know if that's what I'm saying, but it just seems ridiculous that like you're made to play say you've got a squad of like 23 players and you're a League 2 club and you're being made to play this random game against a side that's not going to test your team really in any way, because a lot of them don't. I mean, obviously some do, but say you're being forced to do that. Say you get 3 or 4 injuries, you've now got to go and face league games with a squad of 18, 19 players. When these under 23 clubs can just drop in someone that they want to bring back from fitness, they can, play a whole team of 16-year-olds if they want. It just doesn't add up. I just think it's something that the Premier League trying to do to benefit the top clubs, and once again, it's like an example of those at the top get everything, like reap all the rewards and all the benefits, and then the League 1 and League 2 are just used.
I mean, people have said about loan, like maybe just go back a step. Don't let the academies play in this competition, and just make sure that the academy players have more loan moves to get that men's experience. But I think it's a different kind of experience because it's with players that you're playing with, you're potentially going to be playing with in the future, and it's sort of, and you're in your own environment, or the environment that you've been brought up in anyway. It's not like being sent off, I don't know, just being sent off on loan to somewhere random, and then you're just playing with all these people you don't really know for half a season.
But wouldn't that make, that maybe is that not too comfortable for them? Yes, like I get your point of, yes, these would be potential players and these are your teammates.
Yeah.
But maybe the point of also going out on loan is to then force yourself out of the comfort zone, to develop those friendships, that teammate bond with people you don't know at the start, but then eventually form that to then be part of a team that isn't effectively your own, sort of on that loan spell. So then it shows that you can develop not as a player but also as a person in a team.
Yeah. That's a strong argument, to be fair. I might concede defeat on that one. Yeah.
But I mean, what would the club perspective of it be, George?
In terms of the Checkatrade?
Yeah.
So, interesting that you should say that, Matthew, as we, obviously, I got in touch with Luke Saunders, who works for Cheltenham Town as media officer on match days, and he gave us a bit more on a club perspective. I shall play that for you now. Take a listen, and I want you to make bullet points so we can discuss it afterwards, all right?
I think this season, especially the competition has changed a little bit, and obviously with a few more under-21 teams coming into it, kind of gives it a little bit more value. You can look at it in one of two ways. Some people may not like the introduction of the under-21 teams, but from a club perspective, certainly commercially, it does bring in more people in hospitality. Say we had Arsenal under-21s at the Johnny Rock Stadium a few weeks ago, and that really helped us with hospitality because we had a lot of Arsenal fans and people coming to see the young guns on show, and it did help with our crowds as well. And when you look at the crowd we got last night, it was 700 or so, and obviously it's over 1,000 when Arsenal were there, so it does make a difference, and I think the competition has a little bit more value because of that.
Yeah, and so that's his club opinion as a man from the club. What do we think of that?
Makes sense, yeah.
It's similar to what we've already said, isn't it, really?
For even though it may work for Cheltenham, like I said, they were playing Arsenal under 21s, that's kind of, because yesterday, like the gentleman said in the Vox Pop, that Stoke played, who was it?
They played Port Vale.
And that got a turnout of
almost 8,000.
8,000, just because it was a derby that hadn't been taking place.
That was an exception, And I think because they're not going to face each other in the league anytime soon.
No. But that's so you get those one-offs, but then you have to look at other clubs playing in that competition.
Yeah, like if it was Brighton under 21s you're playing, would it be 1,000 people coming to the Johnny Rock Stadium? It wouldn't.
No. I mean, yeah.
But because it was Arsenal,
aren't they? Yeah.
And there's Man City, Chelsea, Arsenal. They're 3 of the teams involved. But then there's West Ham. They're not on the level of the other 3. There's like a Brighton and Southampton involved. If it's Southampton aren't even allowed to play Portsmouth in the draws. Like whenever it's the draw, they have to be put apart.
Oh.
So like it might create local derbies, but not one of them.
No, yeah, and I think the other thing is, if we took a look at before the under-21s teams were allowed into it. If you're looking at attendances, do you reckon, like a League One versus League Two club quarter-final would probably have exactly the same attendance as that Cheltenham v Arsenal one did? I know that's not a local. I know Cheltenham Arsenal's not a local derby, or whatever.
But again, well, we're talking about like the very biggest, as we say, basically like three main teams would be Chelsea, Man City and Arsenal. Apart from that, I think the attendances would be quite similar potentially to like just a League One, League Two game.
Well,
I mean,
people always going to be. It's not a league game, so fans aren't going to necessarily go to.
Yeah, but I mean that's what I mean. Let's say in the Checkatrade, if it was a League One club against a League Two club, would that attendance be the same as what some of the other under 23 or under 21 clubs in it?
I don't know off the top of my head, but there's like.
Like Stoke, like not many would care about that.
Yeah.
But if it, as Luke Saunders said, the Arsenal under 21s brought a bigger crowd than I reckon would be if it was a League One club against a League Two club.
But like it's because a lot of fans, I don't know how many Cheltenham fans, but overall, the Football League club fans are boycotting it. They don't want to see their teams play a bunch of kids. They want to see them play proper competitive football against teams who are a similar level.
In order to try and like win a trophy by playing it the top level way. Like
Man City can win anything, so why should they be allowed to put their team in and win a trophy that wasn't created for them?
Yeah.
I know, no under 20, no academy teams have won it yet. Chelsea got to the semi-finals last year, but imagine if they won it.
Well, then the League One and League Two teams should take it more seriously and stop saying that.
Because again, if Chelsea won it, it would again be great for Chelsea,
but not for the lower league club.
Division 4 club that the whole
this
trophy's about.
If the main complaint of the lower league clubs is that it's too easy and it's not a real competition,
they're not saying it's too easy. They're saying that it's not fair that the clubs of Chelsea,
it's
Chelsea
a waste of time.
Chelsea got to the semi-final. If they got to the final and won that competition, that was never meant for them to have taken part in the first place. Lower league clubs have been going, well, how is that fair? They've won a cup that was never meant for them at the start of it being developed, and now they've gone and won this trophy, plus the Premier League that season, and then the FA Cup or whatever.
Getting ahead of yourself.
So
it'd be like if Australia won Eurovision.
But
but they could. They're in it.
I know.
That's
my point.
And they're good.
Better than us.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Well, some of those fan perspectives, they said that these games are rubbish and too easy. That's what some of them were saying.
Yeah.
So that's my point. Like, but then, you can't have it both ways.
But then, like if Chelsea got to the final and they're allowed a certain amount of under 21s players, if they're not going to win the trophy, would they just say Eden Hazard playing this game and go, oh, can't they play this game?
Yeah. That is the one thing that I think should at least change for now. I mean, you could call this kind of a trial period. I don't know, but
it's been happening 3 years.
Yeah. But I'd still, that is one rule that I'd agree should change, is the amount of over 21 players that are allowed to be used, because then it can stop that abuse of.
Chelsea played MK Dons last year in the competition. I'm pretty sure Michy Batshuayi played.
Yeah, he did.
Eduardo, the goalkeeper, played, who's 37. A 37-year-old.
Just a few years over then.
Yeah, I mean, I think Chelsea ended up winning 4-0.
Yeah.
So from the MK Dons point of view, they'd be like, well, great, we're playing against top level players
their
here.
chance of winning a trophy and getting to Wembley.
That was even, it was to allow those lower teams to actually have a chance of getting to Wembley, which they might not be able to do so as frequently
anymore.
Obviously not.
In the FA Cup, back before the Premier League started, it was obviously a lot more frequent for teams in the FA Cup to get to the Wembley of all kinds, because there wasn't as much money in football, and it was literally just one-on-one who was just better on the day. Whereas now, because of all the money and sponsorship, If you don't have the money, it's just basic. It's like literally, well, you're just not going to get there without it, sort of thing. Whereas, this Checkatrade Trophy went, okay, League One, League Two, here's your chance of actually getting to Wembley and experiencing it. And for a fan, no matter what competition it is, getting to Wembley is still a great day out, regardless of the competition, whether it's playoff places, the Checkatrade Trophy.
Wait, so
as a fan, you still want to say you went and saw your team play at Wembley in this competition.
But before the academy teams came in, did lower league clubs take it just as seriously, or more seriously, or less seriously? What sort of players did they play?
I did a little bit of research, but the last few winners took it quite seriously.
Yeah, in that they played like their first team that they were playing in the league.
I think it should be down to the club whether they take it seriously or not.
Yeah.
If, like, for example, for me, I know it's different for Cheltenham, and for like the Cheltenham manager, Michael Duff, he's got his own opinion, whatever. But for me, as I've kind of alluded to, don't really care much for the Checkatrade. But if your team is 24th, 23rd, 22nd in League Two, I'd much rather play a bunch of 16-year-olds in the Checkatrade who might, who might learn a lot from that, playing against the team that is taking it more seriously, even if they lose like 5-6-0, and then you can worry about the league and not care that you're out of the cup, rather than having to play one of your stronger teams and having those extra games, which could cost you in the league later on.
Potentially, I mean, I suppose you could say that argued happen with Coventry City because they got relegated into League Two, but they did win the cup last season against Oxford. Yeah. So for a Coventry City fan, cool. I think it's sort of literally the fan perspective of, would you rather win the cup and get relegated or stay in the lead but not win the final?
And what do you think 99% of them would have said?
Stay in the league.
They probably would have said stay in the league because it was League One at the time.
But
at the time, because I think it was also Coventry City were facing quite a lot of hostile press and publicity at the time. Fans were unhappy with the owners and it was all just going turmoil. So from a club perspective as well, it's to show that they could win something, at least prove to Coventry fans that they did care about them a bit. Yeah. Because had they lost the final, it could have then got a lot worse. But at least they played a team that's like, come on, we've got to win this sort of thing, and they did. And then it's sort of
and then they got relegated.
They still got relegated, but I think it then sort of gave fans a little bit of hope of what may happen in the future, perhaps.
But George, from a fan's perspective, did you care? You say you don't care. You don't really care about it now. Did you care about it more or less before the academy teams came in?
Obviously I was younger when it was like that, but yeah, I think I did because.
What more?
Yeah, I think I cared more because, well, again, I don't know, because it depends on where the team is, doesn't it? If we're 7th or 8th in League Two, I think I'd care about it a lot more, because then it looks quite tasty. Then it's a chance of getting a trophy under our belt, and maybe whilst we're pushing for playoffs. But what I'm saying is, it's different. Each club will have a different scenario, and it should be their choice how seriously they take it. Just like the FA Cup, really. And
there'll always be some clubs that will have to take it seriously because of where they are or where they are in the league,
and the pressure of their fans and stuff like that. That might want them to. Someone might want them to win everything. If we're top of the league, I'd be like, yeah, why not? Let's go for it. If we've got a squad of like 40 who are all looking to get in the club, you'd be like, yeah, get in the squad. Sorry, you'd be like, yeah, give them a game. Let's see what we can do this season. Let's have a amazing season. But if if we keep having to play strong players in this, they're getting injured. They're playing against these young lads who don't have enough experience, so aren't a true test for them. But we're getting 2 or 3 injuries. And then we've got to worry about the next Checkatrade game and stuff like that. I just don't think it's worth it.
So, but to summarise, from my opinion, it's a competition which not many teams care about, but it would be a great outlet or a trophy for some teams if they put everything into it and cared about it. But with the introduction of academy teams, it's a bit unfair, and there's less chance of that happening.
I think it's just like. In my opinion, it's a good tournament for Division 3 and Division 4 clubs, which has now been like watered down by the introduction of academies.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
It's taken a lot of the excitement out of it for me.
But then,
anyway.
if let's say they decided, okay, right, there's been a lot of complaints, we'll take out the under-21 squads from the competition.
Mm-hmm.
Would the Checkatrade Trophy then still get them more attention, or would then clubs go, okay, right, they're out now, we've got our wish, now we can just think about it how we used to before and just get on with it?
I don't think it would change very much at all.
No, because they could do what they want, so I think it might benefit them in that respect.
I think maybe home fans, non-academy team fans would probably appreciate it, as we've heard.
And that's who it's for.
Yeah, so
it's not for Premier League teams.
Yeah.
No, but if now they have been into it, surely those fans should have their opinion taken into account as well.
But how many fans actually do you? If Arsenal,
ask George, how many Arsenal fans are at that Chelsea?
Cheltenham
game. Sorry,
that they went out on Tuesday night. Do you care?
Yeah, a little bit.
So you're upset that Arsenal were out the Checkatrade Trophy?
Because I would have been. I would have loved to see them go further and play against more of these teams and see those players grow as they're trying to achieve a trophy.
But from, let's say, a Cheltenham fan perspective, it could be tedious. It could be, especially if you're having to play some occasional first players, and then say if one of your youth players injures them, for you guys it's like, that's fine. But for a league club, that would go, well, we're now like 19th. We're struggling already as it is, and now we've lost one of our star men.
Well, it's just you could say that the other way around. If a Cheltenham player injures,
but it's not going to impact
injures a 17-year-old
as a season.
Injures a 17-year-old who is now going to be out of the next under-23 Premier League D-League Cup. Bit of a joke. 0-0 draw every week. Just everyone playing for themselves.
Yeah, but longer term injuries, it's a similar impact because it impacts a whole career instead of just
impact
half
a whole
season.
Career, but we're just saying, like, in terms of if it was a season injury or at least a long injury for that season, then it would, especially in that competition, it would impact the league club more, that I feel, than the actual under-21 squad player.
Oh, yeah, obviously, yeah.
But also, I'm sure the player would know that he's got the risk if he's going into that game that he's going to get injured.
Yeah.
But if a manager now gets relegated because 3 or 4 of his players, that's the manager that pays the price for that because he hasn't got the player in his squad. It's the club that now don't have the money from League 2 because they've now dropped into the National League or something, and it could spiral, could end up doing a Torquay and go down to the leagues.
Yeah, I think on balance, it's
a very difficult one.
Yeah,
I think my opinion's quite strong on it, just because, like you said, Connor, if were you upset that Arsenal went out on Tuesday?
Not not like really upset, but I was a little.
Like if they went out the FA Cup, you'd be more upset.
Yeah.
Well, because it's the first team.
For me, if
exactly, it's not the first team, so
if Cheltenham went out of the Checkatrade yesterday on Tuesday, I wouldn't be upset.
Okay, but you can't compare the first team to the academy team. What I will say is, if let's say they went out of the Youth Cup, I wouldn't care as much, genuinely, because I think I want to see them more against these men's teams, and I want to see them tested.
I'd rather see Chelsea win the Youth Cup because they're testing themselves against players at a similar level. So they can compete against, because like the person who was heard earlier, their teams, all the teams who are involved haven't been very good. Like, so it's not benefiting it's like losing 6-2 Chelsea.
Right. I was going to say this at some point. That game was a one-off. You saw the next game they played against Forest Green, they won. All right, and they only made one change, and that was Joe Willock. There was the rest of the team was pretty much the same. So
they still
after a red card after 5 minutes. I'm sorry, you cannot.
I think you were still like 1-0 down before that point, though. Anyway,
no, it was a red card, and then they scored the free kick and went 1-0 up. So,
they got smashed. At the end of the day, they got smashed
because of the way Arsenal played. And Art spoke to Youngbo after the game. He just wanted them to go at it and go out, not sit back, not not damage.
Yeah, maybe because he knows there's no point.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's not going to affect his job.
No.
If he goes out the Checkatrade Trophy, he's not going to lose his job.
Let's say Michael Duff had that similar situation where he lost a player early on, and then his club goes out to a 6-2 loss.
Fans aren't going to be happy.
Fans aren't going to be happy, and then also would that red card also carry on into that league or not? For League 2?
I don't know if they carry in the Checkatrade.
No, but what? Know. Okay, no, yeah, you'd rather Duff went for it than sit back and we'd take a 2-0 loss. Oh, boring.
6-2.
But but it's like that's job security for an under-21s manager. This competition doesn't threaten their job.
No, yeah, I agree with that.
For someone like Michael Duff, who's the team's struggling in the league already as it is, and then to then have to focus on this competition as well, playing against the under-20, to then put a side out against an under-21 side, they're sort of like I've got to get a result here, and then I've got to get a result in the league. Otherwise, if I lose this and then lose on the weekend, it's sort of like, this is going to put more pressure on me.
I completely agree with that, but what I'm saying is that if it was the other way around and Duff had gone for it, that wouldn't... Right, the difference between... It's a loss at the end of the day. It wasn't... It was just how...
I see what you're saying.
It was how it was... It wasn't... Duff could have... If the same thing had happened to Duff, he may have set the team up to not lose by as much.
Yeah, because if he loses 6-2, the fans are going to get. So
you're saying so if he had a man down and then lost and then restricted the result and lost 2-3-0, you think that would be massively different if we went out and tried to attack and tried to get more and lost 6-2?
If you look in any other competitive game, there's no in a proper game which managers would care about. They won't say, "Oh, we're a man down. Let's just go for it anyway."
Go for it.
They will make sure to.
It's like a game of chess.
They will close things down to avoid a massive loss because it's competitive.
Like, let's say if in your let's say your North London derby as an example. Let's say you went to 10 men down. Let's say at 0-0, 30 minutes in, and then
North London derby was a bit different. I would want us to go for it regardless because it's the North London.
And then
derby.
Lose 4-0 at home. How would you react then?
We would score because we're going for it. That's what I would.
You?
No, that's why it was 6-2, not 6-0. That's what I'd rather.
But you still let in so many goals though.
Okay, maybe it's just my perspective, but I just want to see attacking football, and I'd really enjoy a good game.
So you'd rather lose 6-2 than 1-0?
That's not what I'm saying because I was saying like 2-3-0 instead of.
Yeah, but you don't know if you're more defensive, you might lose 1-0.
Clearly, I'm not going to win this argument. What I'm saying, I completely agree with most of your. I completely agree with most of your points. I just think I don't know. You're saying that if Duff, you're indicating that if Duff lost 6-2, his job would be at risk.
No, I'm saying the fans would get on his back. Like if
more than if he lost 2-3-0.
Yeah.
So after you were at the game at the 6-2 loss, what was the Arsenal fans' reaction after losing? Were they clapping the team?
They weren't real Arsenal fans.
Were they? Anyway. That's not true. I was in there.
That just proves his point.
Yeah.
Were they clapping the fans, or were they clapping the team, or were they booing the team?
They were clapping the team.
Well, they're not going to boo their team. They're
it's completely different. It's completely different. But you can't compare.
But then say if Cheltenham, if that was the other side with Cheltenham, the fans would have obviously been booing.
So for example, when Cheltenham lost to Forest Green in the Checkatrade, the first game, it was bad. People were really unhappy. Everyone on Twitter was like, I can't believe that was like a derby game where we played so poor, no one even tried and stuff like that.
But I thought no one cared about the Checkatrade.
No, but that's not what we've been saying. I don't care about Checkatrade, but what we've been saying is that if Cheltenham, I'm confused now. You've confused me, Matt. I can't.
If you don't care about the competition, why do it sounds like the fans don't care about the competition.
It's because it's been watered down by the academy sides.
But
even if they beat Forest Green, they might lose to Arsenal anyway. But then
when a side puts out a weaker team because they don't care about the competition and they lose, why do the fans care that they've lost?
Because that was also their derby as well. They only get to see that derby twice a year anyway.
Yeah.
But by having that also in the Checkatrade Trophy as well, they're still, and that'll be 2 games as well, so they'd see it 4 times. For them, they'd still want to have the bragging rights of winning their derby.
And just, I was using that example of Cheltenham Forest Green as like, if it was Cheltenham against...
That's also a very specific example because it's a derby.
Yeah, if it was like Cheltenham against Forest Green under 21s,
well,
like no one would care, I guess.
But I mean, if it was just Cheltenham against some other League 2 team that there's no derby thing, then it was a loss, just why would the fans care if they don't care about the competition?
They're a similar
in terms
level.
Of like,
who you're competing against.
Yeah, so if Cheltenham went down to 10 men against Forest Green and the game finished 1-0, everyone would be like, wow, fair play, Cheltenham, like everyone who was on that pitch put the effort in, tried their best, stuff like that. If Cheltenham went down to 10 men and thought, I know, let's go for it, and they lose 6-0, people would be like, yeah, we had 10 men, but still that's unacceptable that we go to a rival and get absolutely smashed like that.
Okay. Well.
Do you know what I mean? But obviously I guess it's different for Arsenal under-21s because no one cares about the result with the under-21s. It's all about the performance and like the individual player performance. But then if you're using that as an argument, then why does it matter if they're playing against men or they're playing against other under-23s if you're
Would you
just
say
looking at player-for-player performances?
Having academies potentially makes more entertaining games because they don't care? I
don't know if more entertaining. I think...
More open?
Also... Actually, no, it's going a bit off topic. But what's the point in having an academy if you're just going to buy players from abroad anyway?
Okay, Arsenal's a bit different to like Chelsea, let's say.
Well, okay, but
or City, especially.
There's different levels, but it still goes.
Arsenal's
the whole way. So, Cheltenham
how many academy
against...
players played against Tottenham?
Exactly. And then you got Cheltenham, who are struggling as a club as a whole, not the richest, not doing the best in League 2, and they're playing against a bunch of lads who are probably on more money than the Cheltenham players.
Oh, Bellerin, sorry.
But they're on more money than the Cheltenham players are. You've completely thrown me off again.
Sorry.
That. So yeah, they're on more money than the Cheltenham players are, and. Oh, I've completely forgotten my point. Thanks, Connor. Thanks for that.
I think,
but just know it was a good point. All right,
it was. Yeah. No, right. So, yeah, what I'm saying is, I'm making these points to make an argument, and I agree. I do believe in these points, but I do. In the end, I'll be honest. I would have to agree that it's overall a negative for the clubs that are involved.
Well said.
I would say the same on that.
Yeah.
So we all.
Agree. Yeah.
We all agree.
I mean, I'm a bit more open about it as an Arsenal under-21s fan.
I think we're all varying levels. I can see what you're saying because it's exciting to watch these young products playing, but then I
got the chance to watch them against Cheltenham. I mean, it was a 6-3 loss, but like
then if they're that good, they wouldn't be playing for the under-21.
No, and they could. And Connor, you would be just as excited watching them against another under-21s team as you would against Cheltenham.
Yeah. Okay.
So and it's a Division 3 and Division 4 competition for them to get the chance to get to Wembley, which is now been watered down by academies.
Yeah.
Can I just go back to Ryan's point and saying that if they're playing for the under-21s, they're not good enough. Well, what's the point?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
But what is the likelihood that they'll then end up getting into that first team of their team?
So you're saying under-21 teams are pointless?
No, I'm not saying that.
That's what you say.
No, I am. Like for us, for example, obviously we have a lot of history with our youth, but. A lot of the players in our under-21 squad, honestly, I really don't know how many. I doubt 2.
Could you actually name any of the under-23
Probably
players?
not, no, if I'm honest.
What's the point? Are you saying we should just have no academies because it's pointless?
It's all from the club's perspective. For Chelsea, it's all about like profit making, because they can develop these players and they'll sell them on to other clubs and get a profit from it. Or loan them, whatever. But for Arsenal,
it's similar. It's only slightly better, if not like.
Yeah, there's probably little to no difference.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
really.
So
in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
But anyway, round up.
Yeah.
Checkatrade Trophy.
It should be left for League 1 and 2 clubs. In my opinion,
I'd probably agree.
Is that everyone's opinion?
Yes.
Yeah, just about.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, all right. Agree to disagree. Right. So that's everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think we're all calmed down now.
Yeah.
We're all ready to finish it off. So, that's everything. That's our thoughts on the Checkatrade Trophy. We may be running more on this on our Twitter at Pike Life Sport, as this is a Pike Life Sport special. We also may tweet from time to time on the at the Unplayables, so you might want to follow that as well.
Yeah.
Give us a subscribe on our YouTube channel, and like, and hopefully we'll see you again very soon. Guys, it's been a pleasure.
Bye. Yeah,
it's been
good.
It's been a pleasure.
Right. Okay, it's been a pleasure.
Right, calm now.
Thank you for joining me, even though we're all together. But yeah, and we'll see everybody soon. Maybe. Say goodbye, guys.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye, guys.